The Chairperson, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let me begin by commending the African Renaissance and Diaspora Network, as well as the other organizers of this great event, where we commit ourselves to eliminating all forms of discrimination and violence against women and girls. While COVID-19 had attempted to disrupt and derail the main activities planned for this year's session of the Commission on the Status of Women, our gathering today is quite auspicious, as it lends us an enviable opportunity to give voice to the bold commitments that would have been expressed in the course of the next 2 weeks in favor of gender equality and women empowerment. In view of this unique opportunity given by this special event, particularly in light of the inability of most women of the world to gather in New York to celebrate womanhood and the girl child in their majestic beauty and splendor, the government of Nigeria is proud to co-sponsor this event. In the spirit of 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar, Nigeria stands up to say no and to issue a red card to violence and discrimination against women and girls. More than just issuing a red card, Nigeria also issues a green card for every effort that conduces to the realization of a world where every woman and girl attains her full potential and realizes the full enjoyment of her human rights. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the importance of 2020 in the global march towards gender equality and women's empowerment is not only incontrovertible, but also monumental. 2020 marked the 25th anniversary of the 4th World Conference on Women and the adoption of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. 2020 marks the 10th anniversary of the celebration of the UN Women. Again, 2020 also marks the 5th year since the adoption of Agenda 2033 on Sustainable Development, especially as it relates to creating an equal and fair world where no woman or girl is left behind. As a bonus in the battle for the effective advancement of the status of women, 2020 is preceded by 2019, a year that marked the 40th anniversary of the adoption of the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, CEDAW, the foundational document for what we are doing today. Specifically, I would like to stress that if we are to succeed in our campaign, we must, on the one hand, analyze the drivers of discrimination and violence against women and girls, while we must also, on the other hand, work towards gender equality and women's empowerment. We must carry out both our negative obligations, which consist in avoiding all forms of discriminations and violence against women and girls, as well as our positive and affirmative obligations, which demand that we take concrete steps to promote women's empowerment and ensure the full development and advancement of women and girls for the purpose of guaranteeing them the uninhibited exercise and enjoyment of human rights and fundamental freedoms on the basis of the essential equality of all human beings. I am happy to note that Nigeria has witnessed several defining moments in its progress towards gender justice, especially since the adoption of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action almost 25 years ago. Within the last 5 years, in particular, the causal links between a more inclusive national development, architecture, and gender mainstreaming have become topical issues in national policy and practice, because Nigeria believes that no country can achieve its maximum developmental potential without fully harnessing the capabilities, the endowment, and competencies of its women, who often constitute more than half the population. As a result, a range of sector-specific gender shifts with significant transformative value have occurred. For instance, the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, enacted in 2015, situates women's human rights within an institutional paradigm of freedom from economic, domestic, and other forms of violence. The National Sex Offenders Register, to publicly shame perpetrators and deter sexual violence, was launched on the 25th of November 2019. And Nigeria's second National Action Plan on UNSCR 1325 to promote women, peace, and security is due for review this year. Also, it is gratifying to inform that female involvement has increased as a result of He for She campaign, of which I'm a proud champion. The emergence of more men and boys as champions of gender change has led to specific gains, such as changes in the structure of traditional leadership hierarchies to include women in some communities of the country. Similarly, harmful traditional practices such as female gender mutilation have reduced significantly through the National Zero Tolerance to FGM drive led by the wife of the President of Nigeria, Her Excellency Aisha Mohammed Buhari, and our Ministries of Health and Women Affairs in collaboration with UNHPA. Excellencies, Nigeria's effort at gender equality and women empowerment will be woefully wanting if the issue of sexual and gender-based violence, especially in humanitarian, conflict, and post-conflict situations, was not addressed. We would like to underscore that for us, sexual and GBV against women and girls constitute one of the most brutal manifestations of human rights violations, for which the perpetrators must be held accountable. In this regard, and to counter the fact that gender-based violence is often under-recognized and underreported the world over, the National Center for Women Development, in collaboration with the Office of the Wife of the President, has launched a gender-based violence electronic dashboard. The aim is to improve documentation and set up a mechanism for monitoring and responding to gender-based violence across the country, in order to improve prosecution and ensure compensation for victims and their families. Accordingly, Nigeria calls on all to address the effects of armed conflict and post-conflict situations on women and girls, as well as the challenges faced by refugee women and girls. In particular, Nigeria would like to recall the theme of the recently concluded Summit of African Heads of State and Government on silencing the guns. We cannot and should not continue to allow women to be caught up in the vicious cycle of human misery and degradation occasioned by meaningless conflicts and wars. For its part, the Nigerian government continues to do everything within its power to extricate women and girls from these unhealthy situations in order to rehabilitate and resettle them in respect and in dignity. Excellencies, as I conclude, I would like to reaffirm the commitment of the Nigerian government to eliminate discrimination against women and remove all obstacles to equity and equality. Nigeria recognizes that the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action remains a relevant framework in addressing gender inequality and women's advancement. In 12 critical areas of concern, form the nexus of gender equality, and when fully addressed, could fast-track the achievement of equality. Crucially, as we launch this campaign to give a red card against all forms of violence and discrimination against women and girls, I would like to restate my call that we must not only stand against something, we must stand for something. We must not only stand against all forms of violence and against women and girls, we must also stand for gender equality and women's empowerment. On that note, once again, here is my red card to every form of violence and discrimination against women and girls, as well as my green card for gender equality and women's empowerment. I thank you all. Thank you.